Hey guys, welcome back. Yes, I'm still recovering from my knee replacement, so we're going to give you another product review. This one's pretty exciting, so I want you to stick around for a minute and let me explain this to you because it's going to solve a little bit of a problem that a lot of us have, especially when we're talking about safety while driving. Guess you can guess it. It is, dash cams and the need for them in all vehicles. Now, the problem that we have had with dash cams in the past is they're hard to operate, hard to use, big bulky things that you have to stick to your windshield. They look like crap. And when you spend a lot of money on your vehicle, the last thing you want to do is occupy space with stuff that doesn't look like it belongs. I did do a product review a while back, never did release the video because a company reached out to me and wanted me to do an install with their front rear camera system. I did the install and it turned out abysmal. Couldn't get the product to work. The only time it would actually turn on is when I manually went in and turned it on from the camera itself. I finally called the company or emailed the company and said, hey, I'm not going to do a review on this. In fact, send me a shipping label so I can send this thing back to you. I don't like it. I can't get it to work right. Your IT department hasn't been able to come up with anything to move that along, so I'm just going to return it to you and not do a review on it and save you guys the embarrassment. I'm not going to mention that company. So what we're putting this on, what we put the last one on, is my wife's car, the 2023 Lexus RX350. I'm going to show you that car here in just a second. But first, I'm going to show you this product, and you're going to understand why I am so excited about it. So without further ado, let's get into this. So this is Uni. Yeah, it's a Chinese company or wherever else they're from. But it is the Fitcam X Dashcam. Does film in 4K. Now you guys are going to understand why I'm so excited about this in just a second. Because these guys don't just make a dash cam that sticks to the windshield. It has a irritating little button that you have to push anytime you want to save video or anything like that. They've actually gone through and remade the bezel that goes around the rear view mirror and incorporated the dash cam into the bezel. So it looks stock. Now, I have been saying for a long time, why can't these dash cam companies merge with auto manufacturers to integrate the plethora of cameras that these vehicles already have on them into a factory style camera system? I don't know why they haven't done it. Maybe somebody out there has an answer for me on that. Why can't the manufacturers integrate a dash cam into all these vehicles that have all of these cameras on them, especially when we're talking about a safety issue? All right, so here's what I'm excited about. This is the bezel that goes around the rear view mirror on this car. And as you can see, they have molded in a dash cam right into it. This thing is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to install it and actually see what we're going to get out of it. Now, I also did ask for a rear camera. So I'll be installing a front and rear camera. The cool thing about this here rear camera is it wraps all the way around the front of the vehicle and ties right back into here so that it all seamlessly operates and we don't have a whole bunch of extra wires going around and all that stuff. Now here's another really cool thing about this. They utilize the wiring and the other equipment in the vehicle to make it where you have your power and so on and so forth for these dash cams, right? Again, simplicity. So if you have, your overhead console and it already has power going to one part of that or not, why not utilize that as your power setup for this dash cam? Just with a simple little T-junction like this. Okay. Very simple, easy design. This ties into the factory front camera wiring harness to give you your tap for the aftermarket dash cam. No wires going all the way down the A-pillars down to, your fuse box or anything like that. It's a simple plug and play little harness adapter like that. In this kit, you also get a drive for your USB card so that you can plug this into your computer and download information. They give you a trim stick tool as well. And then we've also got other kinds of mounts for stuff. Not sure yet if this is for your phone. We'll get into that here in a minute once we get going through the directions. And then you also have what looks to be a suction base with a flexible head on it. Again, I'm assuming this is for a phone mount, but it's going to be pretty stiff. There we go. That's in case you want to view your dash cam footage at all times, whatever. This might be unnecessary, but pretty cool anyway that they consider that for you. So I'm going to get into some destructions on this. I'm going to start getting this thing tore apart, and we're going to do a little bit of install, and then I'm going to give a final review with the setup and everything else that you do through the app on your phone. Now, stick around. Let me get into this. We'll be right back. All right, so we're going to start doing the install on this, and the first thing we got to do is get this part of the bezel off, and then we'll get the main part of the bezel off by pushing it down. So we'll pry back on this piece right here. Let's see if I can do this all one-handed. Kind of a not the easiest thing to do, but we're going to give it a shot. I might have to put this down so I can actually pop that out, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that part out, and then we'll get the other bezel off, so hold on a sec. All right, so once you get that middle piece out, then to get the other part of the bezel, you just want to pry it down the windshield a little bit, just like that. Yeah, it's going to fall. Anyway, that accesses also where we're going to be plugging in. But first, before we can plug in, we need to take this bezel over here to the bench, my little table. We need to get these two clips off right here, and we need to install them into the new bezel. All right, so once you get these little buggers popped off of the old bezel, you can literally just slide them into the new bezel and click them into place. Okay, one and then two. Next thing we're going to do is get the tap put in so that we can power up the front camera. But before I put the front camera in and the bezel and all that stuff, I'm going to get the rear camera mounted and the wiring harness ran for that. Now to put the tap in, we're going to get that wiring harness connector right there unplugged and plug in the tap. And there is the tap in plug, or plugged in plug. Anyway, so I am going to get the rear camera mounted, and then we're just going to tuck everything up underneath the headliner, bring it back around underneath the headliner here towards the front, and plug in. So it'll be pretty easy. We'll show you a couple steps along the way. For the back camera, you've got this side up that has to be up, all right? So I'm going to mount this thing right here. In order to do that, I got to get this plastic down so that I can get the harness run through one of those two boots right there. So give me a few minutes and I'm going to start getting this apart and get the wiring harness fished through there. So some of you might be asking how I get in through these factory grommets to run wiring. This right here is just a simple piece of irrigation tube. You can use like the airline for airbags, whatever. I get it fed up through there, you know, unplugged from both ends. And then I'll tape the camera harness onto this end and then pull it back through. You might have to use a little bit of spit or some WD to help slide that thing through because you don't want to damage any of the other wiring that goes through there, but you get the gist. That's how I get my wiring harness through those. Easiest thing I have found. So there's the camera mounted in the back window. Now you will be able to twist this to aim it once we get everything up and running. The harness I have coming out underneath the headliner right there. I'm going to start fishing that all the way around the passenger side so I can bring it around and tie it back into the front camera. So I'm going to get going on that, and nothing specific, just get it tied up and tucked. Make sure you do not interfere with any of the airbags in the process of doing this. Pretty simple and easy there. So be very careful how you're doing this. So we got all the wires routed for the one cable routed from the back camera. That's this one right here. I haven't put this up yet because I still got extra harness up in there that I need to tuck. As soon as I get everything mounted up to the front plate and that camera mounted, and then I'll tuck wires away and make sure nothing's all visible and stuff. But it's a pretty easy kit. Again, make sure that when you're running that harness from the back camera up, that you do not interfere with the airbags. Otherwise, it could be a safety issue, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and get these two hooked up to the new bezel with the new camera, get that installed, and we'll show you a finished product. Okay, there's the new bezel in with the camera. You can see it right there. There's your SD card. And then you have two buttons. You have a capture button, and then you have a power button right there. Let me show you what this thing looks like from the outside, okay? It looks like it should have been like this from factory. There it is. You don't have a whole bunch of bulky crap stuck to your window and looking stupid. Let's go look at the back. Now, you're probably not going to be able to see it through the tint. That camera's right there. I don't know if you can see it. Right there. Anyway, I'm going to go through and get this system fired up, all the settings done, and we'll show you what she looks like. All right, so I got this thing hooked up. I mean, it's extremely simple to hook up. As soon as you power up the key, the lights come on, you connect to the camera's Wi-Fi. You download the app, of course, and then you can download the app through either store, whether it's iStore or Android, whatever. And then connection is really, really easy. Go into the settings and you can turn on parking mode, turn off parking mode, adjust the sensitivity, and then you go through and open up the camera screen so that you can view the cameras and get that rear one aimed. Of course, that way it's looking down. You want it to be able to see a license plate. You don't want it to have too far of a vision going up, so you want to bring that image down a little bit. And then, yeah, it's real easy. I just love this kit. It goes in so smooth, looks factory. You don't have a whole bunch of bull crap hanging around. Of course, you do have the rear camera that's stuck to the glass, but that's the rear camera. It's not the front camera. And again, I love this product, so I'm going to go ahead and include a link in the description. And for right now, I'm going to get this thing uploaded for you guys. And this is definitely a must buy. This is probably one of the better ones out there. You don't have a screen that you're never going to look at unless you get into a wreck. But if you get into a wreck or whatever, you just connect your phone to it. You can also pull the SD card out of it. And then there's also a capture button on the bottom of that bezel. Now, what that capture button does is, if something happens, remember, these record in a loop. So as that SD card fills up, it'll start re-recording over the beginning. When you push that camera button, let's say you get into a wreck or there's some road rage or something like that, you can push that camera button and it'll loop it or freeze that part of the loop so that it doesn't record over it. That's pretty key, especially when we're trying to track down a certain individual who, does some road rage on your wife, because that was a scary night. That lady actually followed my wife all the way to the police department. It's because she was driving like an idiot, cut Audrey off, and yeah, it's a pretty scary night. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this all stitched together, uploaded for you guys so that you can check it out. But this is a definite buy. Talk to you later.